It looks like we are ready to begin. Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone who took time out of their evening to attend tonight. Our program tonight is In Plain Sight, a program designed to help identify and address the issues surrounding drug use here in central Wisconsin. My name is Jim Dina. I am in my first year as a district administrator in the Port Edward School District. I'm a lifelong Wisconsinite and have lived in central Wisconsin for over 20 years. Healthy People Wood County is a team of community residents and organizational partners addressing the top health priorities throughout Wood County. Since 2008, substance use has been identified as one of the top priorities. Impact is the team at Healthy People Wood County addressing substance use through youth prevention efforts, harm reduction, and building recovery supportive environments. Their areas of focus include underage drinking, youth tobacco, nicotine, THC use, and prescription drug misuse. The In Plain Sight bedroom that we see over here was created in 2018 by the Wood County Drug Task Force. The presentation includes substance use items that are trending among youth, tips for where parents and guardians should look if they suspect something is not right, and what to do if you find something that you are concerned about. We hope that this presentation creates the opportunity for important conversations to happen among students and our parents. At this time, I'd like to introduce tonight's first pair of presenters. Ashley Normington is a public health strategist with the Wood County Health Department. Ashley is a Wood County native. She grew up in Vesper and graduated from Pittsville High School. After graduating from UW-Stevens Point, she joined AmeriCorps and was then hired to do full-time community substance use prevention with the Marshfield Clinic. In 2017, Ashley started working with the Wood County Health Department and has been working in substance use prevention for over 10 years. She now supports harm reduction and recovery supportive efforts, along with her passion for community prevention work. She resides just outside of Pittsville with her husband, Wes, and their 3 children. Welcome, Ashley. Jacob Wagner has his master's degree in public health and is also a public health strategist for the Wood County Health Department. Jacob is a true Midwesterner. He was born in Kansas, grew up in Iowa, attended college in Illinois, and now calls Wisconsin his home. He joined the Wood County Health Department in April 2021 as Healthy People Wood County received federal drug-free community funding. Jacob provides staff support to Impact, focusing on youth substance use prevention efforts. Before joining Wood County, he worked as a substance abuse counselor. Jacob lives in Wisconsin Rapids with his partner Audrey and their 2 dogs. Welcome, Jacob.
All right, so we're going to get started with the bedroom display now. So, as Mr. Bina told you, the bedroom was put together by the Wood County Drug Task Force back when that group was formed. Since 2019, that group has not been meeting. But a lot of the efforts from the Wood County Drug Task Force are now still taking place. They've been picked up by other groups within our communities. So those efforts are not lost. We've sustained them through the work of our Impact Coalition and other community organizations here have been really doing a lot of work around substance use in our community the last couple of years. So we've brought in a couple of presentations over the years that we've kind of just combined for this bedroom display, our teen bedroom display. So Officer Jermaine Galloway is the tall cop who says stop. He's come in and done excellent presentations for us, talking about indicators of substance use that you should be aware of. That includes a lot of clothing brands and different paraphernalia, things like that we've incorporated into the display. We also had a family from southern Wisconsin come and share their story of the son's substance use disorder. So it was the son, his sister, and then his 2 parents that did a bedroom display similar to this. So we figured we would take all of these great resources and presentations, make them very local to central Wisconsin with what we're seeing here and what our partners are telling us they are seeing. So we work with a number of community partners, including law enforcement, school districts, businesses, the media, parents, community residents, to make sure we are hearing from our entire community about what's going on. So if anyone has an interest in being a part of that work, reach out to one of us at the Wood County Health Department. We'd be happy to talk more about that. One of the things I like to make sure I mentioned before starting this presentation is that there are some items in this room that could make you feel uncomfortable. Just know that at any time, if you feel you need to leave, take care of yourself, if there's something that just doesn't sit right with you, you can feel free to get up and leave if you need to, and someone will check on you. I just like to point that out before we begin our presentation. So we're just going to dive right in. I know we have a few people live in the audience today as well as virtual, so we'll try to make sure we're presenting to both. But let's just start over here with the peanut butter, because this is one of my favorite things. There's a number of things in this bedroom display that are everyday items that you could potentially see in a youth bedroom. Okay? This peanut butter jar is weighted. It feels like real peanut butter. I purchased most of these items off of Amazon, believe it or not, so you can get it anywhere, but it's a stash compartment. Okay? There's not peanut butter in this jar. It's a stash compartment where you can hide things. Okay? And I would say probably over 50% of the items in our room is a stash compartment. Anything that you see sitting here most likely can hide something or conceal an item. Next, we'll get into some of the clothing items. So this hat has a little emblem on the side. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know why I bought the black hat with the black emblem. But Grassroots is a clothing brand that does not sew one of the seams. Okay? So one of the seams inside the hat here with Grassroots is unsewn, and that's where a stash can be hidden. So it's a little bit tricky. We do have things in most of our stash compartments. So if you want to come and look and see if you can find the seam, we actually have inside of this hat, there is a vape. Okay? And you can kind of see what the logo looks like inside the hat as well. There's a little G with a plant coming out of it, and it's a Grassroots brand. Okay? So kind of hard to see here. We might have a sticker on the chest as well.
Do we want to pass that one around?
Yep, it has Grassroots. There's a sticker on the chest as well. You can pass that one around. So just know there is a vape in there, so try not to drop the vape. And the next clothing item, okay, we've got the purple liquid with the 2 styrofoam cups. Anyone recognize what this one is? Okay, it has a couple of different names: Purple Drink, Scissorup, Lean. Okay, that indicates cough medicine abuse. Okay.
It can be mix it with a soda, and the reason they call it purple drink is because of the mixture that they use. So usually they'll mix it with a soda, and then it'll be a cough medicine, and then it's usually a Jolly Rancher. We have a piece of candy here, and that just helps with the taste. And usually they mix it with like a codeine or a promethazine, which is like a prescription strain cough medicine. But if they don't have a prescription, they'll use just a plain cough syrup. And the purple drink comes from letting the candy dissolve with whatever pop and the mixture of the cough syrup with it as well. It's a kind of a pop, hip-hop culture thing.
Yeah. So you may hear that some of those terms in different songs and different things in our pop culture.
So it's not drink, it's drank.
Purple
Purple
drink. Scissor. There's a few other names for it, but those are the most common ones. So 420, okay? If you don't know what 420 is, it's an indication of marijuana use, okay? So our Highway 420 sign is not talking about an actual highway, okay? That's an indicator that you may want to have a conversation with someone about marijuana use, okay? And actually on the back of this, we actually taped a little hide of pills, okay? So this is just a reminder. If your gut tells you something's wrong and you want to look for something behind posters, behind pictures, there's even an outlet that they sell that literally you pull the outlet out, you can hide something in there. We didn't bring it with us today, but just give you an idea of where some things can be hidden. The ceiling tiles and vents is another good place to hide things and to search. So again, if your gut's telling you something, if something's wrong, trust your instincts. Okay?
And why do they call it 420? Right? Why do they call it 420? Do you know?
I'm not sure of, it's the date.
Could be the date, could be the
It-
time, bit of time.
The lore that I heard is that in California, that's the penal code,
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I heard too, yeah.
yeah, for drugs.
That's what I thought he would know. He's the code guy. I'll show this one actually.
Okay.
And so now, this is the new 420, so you'll probably see this now if you go into a smoke shop. It's 710, so the same way that they sell 420 merchandise, they'll sell 710 merchandise, and
So
that's,
what's the significance of the 710? Flip it upside down, it spells oil, okay? 710, oil, so oil is like a concentrate.
and concentrate is kind of the new popular thing right now.
We actually set our clock over here. That clock isn't actually correct, obviously, it's not 420. We intentionally set it at 420. But the clock is actually also a hide. You can open the clock up, it's a stash compartment as well. We just didn't have a good spot to hang
And
it
it's
in.
a
our
functioning
bedroom.
clock too, so it's not just gonna sit there and do nothing.
Yep, you can put a battery in it. We've got our prescription pill bottles, so if you're seeing pill bottles that your child should not have, that's an indicator, right? Have that conversation. The Signature Sweets, the cigarillos. These are grape flavored little cigars. They're very cheap, okay? These are not included in the tobacco tax for cigarettes, okay? They're like 99 cents for 2 little cigars. This one has on it, this one is 3 cigars for 99 cents, okay? Very cheap, affordable, they don't have to be behind the counter. When you sell them, they can be out on the floor, so they're easy to grab.
And if not for a nicotine high, they can cut it open, you fill the inside of marijuana, lick it, roll it up. And you'll usually see in the trash, you've got trash cans somewhere, you usually see a long log of tobacco to show where they cut it and dumped it out.
Our plant is not a fancy plant, it's actually a stash compartment. Okay, there's a key safe in there. Just another indication of what your stash compartments can look like. Few other clothing items, let's just keep going. We've got the pot leaves on the socks. Okay, a lot of people think, what's the big deal with marijuana? Okay, youth should not be using marijuana. Okay, it hurts your brain. Okay, it can lead to other substance use. And if they're wearing socks like this is not just for people to say, hey, I use marijuana. This is an indication to say, you know what? I'm using substances. I'm more likely to be approached if I'm wearing something like this and people think it's okay. Okay?
In substance counseling, we would come across a lot of times where people would try to go into recovery and realize that their identity revolved around the substance they use, their clothes, the way they decorate their house. And so it's not a big deal when the officer says that he has Jamaican socks. It's not a big deal to have one, right? But to kind of identify, we have posters, we have a lot of cool stuff that kind of shows all of this, but when you kind of identify it, it becomes your identity, that culture.
Right. So a couple of other things. Fun ice cream truck. It says Trap Lord. Okay. You may hear things like Trap Queen, Trap House, Trap Lord. You substitute trap for the word drug. This one's got an ice cream truck on it, unfortunately. Okay. It's not one of my favorite shirts because of the ice cream truck appealing to little kids, right? Another one a lot of people are not familiar with, but this brand is getting very big right now. Okay, cookies. And actually the logo is just a little cookie with a bite taken out of it. This brand is very much associated with marijuana use, okay, with substance use. And you'll actually notice it now that you know the brand. If you see it, you'll notice it, you'll recognize it now. There was actually, my husband's an Ocean Spray grower, and Ocean Spray shared something on Facebook with a gentleman was drinking out of an Ocean Spray bottle for one of their ads. And he was wearing a cookie shirt. And I said, no, not Ocean Spray.
Have you ever seen Cookies brand before?
I just told Mrs. Schroeder, I saw it in school, I believe,
Yeah.
within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a girls' clothing line.
Right.
It's just sold out.
That's a good question.
I'm not sure if it's just sold online. I don't know. You can probably buy it in some places. I just don't know for sure.
It's in, like,
I
skate
attended
shops
the
and
Tall
stuff.
Cop training, which
Like skate shop.
Skate
skate
shops.
shops, yes. I attended the Tall Cop training and I learned about Cookies brand and then I started seeing it everywhere. I'll go to the YMCA and you'll see kids wearing it and you would hope that their parents don't know what it means.
But now that you know, that's, you know, an indication that you should have that conversation. 'Cause it might not be concerning that someone's wearing a cookies shirt, so what? Well, who's gonna approach them, okay? Is someone then gonna come up to them and say, oh, I like your shirt, do you wanna buy something? Okay, that's why we wanna make people more aware of this. Okay, the shirt isn't necessarily the concerning part, it's what's happening after, what the message you're sending when you're wearing the shirt, okay? All right. We've also got a number of
I found a
hats.
cookie shirt, but it says I'm here because I was told there was going to be cookies.
That's good.
The munchies, right?
The Cookie Monster, is he on it? That's their, they use the Cookie
Yes,
Monster.
they have Cookie
That's right.
Monster too, yes.
So it's Sesame Street, okay.
We've got a number of hats as well. This one's just Kush, you know, a certain strain of marijuana. This hat actually is, has a little crown on it. Anyone seen this little crown? Almost looks like a Budweiser or a Burger King crown. That's the brand No Bad Ideas, okay? So the No Bad Ideas brand with that little tiny crown means there's a stash compartment in these hats. And this stash compartment is a little tricky. We'll pass this one around too. But in the top brim of this one, I'm gonna give it away. I was just gonna say, can you find it? But it's in this part of the hat, okay, that has, it's a very strong Velcro. So even if law enforcement doesn't know the brand, they won't know to look for this really strong Velcro, okay? And in there is just our crushed up mints. Don't worry, there's no actual drugs here, but a little stash in there. Okay, this beanie hat, same thing. Sewn inside is the little logo, your No Bad Ideas logo, okay? And there is a Velcro pouch on the top of this one. Really hard to open, okay? Where we've got our stash.
And it doesn't have to just be the logo. It could be, you know, any of these things to check. As Tall Cop was saying, they just do a better and better job as people start to recognize the logo and kind of hiding the logo better.
Another keep it 420 shirt, okay? A can koozie. Your kid's got a can koozie, especially one that says drunk AF, and it's got a bottle opener on it. You're gonna want to have a conversation with them about the dangers of underage drinking, okay? A lot of people don't think it's a big deal. This is Wisconsin. Everyone drinks when they're underage, right? Well, there are reasons kids should not be drinking underage, okay? The law is 21 for a reason, and if you don't know how to have that conversation, fortunately there's tools and resources to help you. They have talking points. The Small Talks campaign through the Wisconsin Department of Health Services has some excellent talking points. Well, you drank when you were under 21, or you drink all the time, why shouldn't I? How do you respond to those difficult conversations? Okay, how do you have that conversation? What's the conversation starter? How do you bring it up? The Small Talks campaign is excellent for teaching you what to say, how to respond to those difficult questions that your kids ask you. While we're on the topic of alcohol, we got our tampons. And I found these on Amazon again. These are actually not tampons, these are booze tubes. Okay, you can keep alcohol in these, and it actually says smuggleYourBooze.com. Right on the tampon, okay, right on the booze tube. In a tampon container, okay? This box is actually like the real tampons, because this is another talking point, okay? People have soaked alcohol, soak their tampon in alcohol and insert it up a body cavity, both males and females, as a way to mask, so if they're using alcohol, you don't smell it on the breath, it passes the barriers and gets you intoxicated, okay? Another thing, you can reseal these. Who's gonna check their kids' tampons? Okay, if they're resealable, you can put pills in there, you can hide things in there.
It's called plugging when you insert it like that, and it has a high intensity too. People that I dealt with in substance abuse would be so addicted to alcohol that's the only way that they could actually receive the high off of it.
We also have our umbrella, that's not really an umbrella, it's a booze-brella, okay? Alcohol in the booze-brella. Okay, these are all stash compartments here. I'll just kind of breeze through these so we don't run out of time today because we have a lot of things to get through. The speed stick, there's actual deodorant in here. I drop this every time. It's even got the little plastic thing that comes on it when you first get it. Smells like speed stick. It's getting a little old probably, but this one's a little tricky. You have to squeeze the sides in order to get to the stash compartment that's on the bottom. Hey, and I can smell the speed stick right now.
You don't like speed sticks?
I don't mind it when it's on someone, but. And then the women's deodorant as well. This one's a little bit different. The lady speed stick. I don't know what's with the brand. Nothing against the brand. They just, someone decided to do something with it. It looks like real deodorant. It's actually not. It's kind of a chalky feel to it, so it feels like real deodorant. But that one, the top just comes off, and they put some felt around it here, and the hide is inside of that one. The Axe spray, we were just talking about the Axe spray today. Okay, this one, it even looks like the Axe spray. Luckily, it doesn't really spray. But yeah, this is also a stash compartment. The top comes right off. That's a stash compartment. Hairspray, okay. You can shake it, it feels like hairspray. It doesn't really spray. This one doesn't. Bottom, twists off, stash compartment. Water bottle. I'm not gonna lie, I actually took this on vacation with me. So we're going to a beach somewhere warm. But the bottom unscrews. This water bottle looks exactly like my mother-in-law's water bottle. But in the bottom of this one, there's a stash compartment, okay? It's to hold your valuables, right? So when I was on the beach, I'm like, hey, if I gotta take my rings off or put some money in this, it'll come in handy, right? Do good things with it, it's one thing, but if you do bad things with it, it's a completely another story, right? So now we're moving on to the carpet here. We got a lot of trash on the floor. Obviously this looks like a teen's bedroom, right? If you find a belt on the floor, no big deal. If the belt is looped like this, who would take the time to loop their belt? Okay, that could be an indication that they're using it as a tourniquet. Okay, so just finding something, a little sign like that, could be an indication that you may want to have that conversation. All right, we've got some tin foil on the ground here. Okay, can hold little bindles, could use as a cooker. So tin foil could be an indication if you're running low on tin foil, you find it in your kid's room somewhere. You might want to have a conversation like, why would you have tin foil in your room type thing? Okay. Cotton on the floor. This was one of the things that the presenters from Southern Wisconsin shared in their teen bedroom. Why am I finding stuffing and cotton all over the floor? Well, it was because the stuffed animal was where they were stashing something. Okay. Just another indication something may not be right. Figure out where it's coming from. Okay, if something doesn't look right, ask the questions, have that conversation. Someone from the Nakusa Police Department actually told us about the tennis ball. Hey, you need a tennis ball in your room. Cut it open, okay? Cut open tennis ball. The drugs, the cash doesn't have to exchange hands at the same time. Okay, you can throw it across the parking lot type thing. A lot of the things on the bed here are just maskers. So if they're wearing sunglasses, they have eye drops. We've got Visine on the nightstand. They got Febreze. They may be trying to mask something, hide the red eyes. We got a little cool spacey looking case that has a scale in it. Okay, to weigh out substances. That's definitely an indication you need to have a conversation if you find a scale.
Cell phone then?
Sure.
So this looks like a fun old school iPhone, right? Let me open this one up.
The sides just pull her apart.
This one is also a scale.
Okay. Cell phone look-alike. I've seen a computer mouse that's also a scale. You pull the computer mouse apart. We can just keep going with a bunch of, like I said, we have a ton of stash compartments. This is another one of my favorites. This is an actual working bolt, okay? It unscrews on the bottom, it's got a washer, you've got your nut, but the top of it is a stash compartment, okay? We've got a lot of rural farm kids in our area, a lot of them work with their hands, okay? This is one that I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get that bolt for my bedroom display. I had a lot of fun putting this together.
And this goes along with what she was saying about the tinfoil being able to use to smoke substances with it. I had a lot of clients talk about how they liked using apples and tinfoils to make pipes out of. So if you drill a hole and you put a funnel into a little carb, you can actually smoke out of it. And they liked it because they could just throw it away. So if they got into a situation where they needed to destroy it, they could just easily destroy it. So it seems harmless, but if it looks like it's been smoked out of, it's probably used to smoke a substance.
Right. So go through the trash, okay? If you have a suspicion, go through the trash. Okay, we put the paper bag in here to indicate that someone may be huffing, okay? So huffing is when you spray a substance into the bag and you breathe it in to get high, okay? So just look for indicators.
Any substance with a high fume, gasoline, spray paint,
Sure.
intense professional glue.
We put this little pop can together. It's got holes on the top with some burn marks. There's a hole in the side, okay, because this was used to smoke something out of. Okay. I think everything else out of the trash is just tin foil and corner baggies. So corner baggies is another thing that substances may be packaged in. So if you're finding little corner baggies from Ziploc bags, things like that, could be an indication.
They stuff it in the corner of a Ziploc or a sandwich bag, and then they turn it until it tears off. Keeps it tightened together.
A lot of these scent-proof stash bags were sent to us with the stuff we ordered on Amazon, believe it or not. So when we would order a stash compartment, they would send some little scent-proof baggies. So these are supposed to be scent-proof. We're not going to test it out on the dog today, don't worry. We don't want to. But we also have more stash compartments with the soda cans. The tops come right off, stash compartment. Okay, so if a soda has been sitting in the child's room for a number of days untouched, go check it out. Okay? Same thing with a water bottle. Okay, we just talked to law enforcement today. They said they found a number of these water bottles that hold something in them. Okay, another stash compartment. All right? So if you see there's separation in the top and the bottom, it may be kind of hard to see that there's bubbles in the top and the bottom at the same time. A better indicator would be if it's sitting in the room unopened for a long period of time. There's an unopened water bottle. Why is it sitting there? Okay, check it out. Another one of our favorites, because this one came with real extra fiery sweet barbecue Pringles in it. I wouldn't eat them because they're probably pretty old and stale. But there's real Pringles in here. Okay? They sell these locally at the smoke shops and around Rapids. Okay? Stash compartment. I might break this one, so I'm going to be careful.
Yeah, it's close to the end of its life.
Might need to go buy a new one. Alright, other things, Kleenex. Okay, just look, see if there's anything hidden in the Kleenex. We got a stash compartment hidden in there. Obviously, pong, I don't know if it's still in style or not, but beer pong, if there's ping pong balls in the red Solo cups, that's an indication that they may be interested in drinking games. We got a Drink Master Says drinking game as well, okay? Those are indications you should be talking to a child about the dangers of underage drinking. We got a key fob. This one's a really tricky one to open. I don't know if I can do it, especially under pressure right now.
Yeah.
But you really got to pry this thing apart, okay? This one, like, gives everyone trouble.
Last time we did it, we actually took it apart and put it together for you. But
I don't
it has
think
to
I
be
can do it.
torn and then
Torn
Just
apart
trust us,
this way, then tear it apart the other way.
it's a good one. Even if
I'll let you work
even,
on it.
even if you knew.
Alright, then going into the drawers, we do have a glass pipe. Okay, substances can be smoked out of this. This was actually donated from one of the local police departments. Okay, we washed it out and put it in our teen bedroom, right? They do sell these at convenience stores. It's not just smoke shops that sell these kinds of things. Okay, they sell them at gas stations quite frequently. There's also pipes that have a bigger bulb on them for methamphetamine use. Okay, it It needs a little bit thinner glass.
And this goes, and there's a lot of different ways to do this, but a lighter case with this little pokey prod, and they'll use, paper clips, something like that, but they'll use it to clean out the bowl if it gets clogged or so. Usually see some of this with like a sticky black residue. It's usually the resin from the pipe that they're using, and now they've got stuff that kind of goes into wax and dabs and stuff like that. But for the glass pipes, you find something like this. Usually stickier, stuck to something. But
I think that one's called a toker poker. This was purchased at Spencer's Gifts in the Eau Claire Mall. It's a lolly pipe, a 100% edible candy pipe. Okay?
let me see if you get this open.
Kind of makes you mad, doesn't it? Okay, lolly pipes. Who are they selling these to?
Is it functional?
What's that?
Is it functional?
It is functional, yes.
It's functional.
Oh yeah.
These you actually shouldn't be seeing anymore. These are Emodca. Okay, emojis. Remember when the Emoji movie was out? We started seeing these Emodca bottles in convenience stores and in liquor stores, and we actually still saw one in one of the local liquor stores. Not gonna say where. But this is actually against the law. You can't have something that's youth-friendly associated with alcohol use, so that's why you don't see like Santa Claus drinking a beer, okay? You can't advertise that way. You can't have youth-friendly products, and they found that this was too youth-friendly to have, so we complained enough about it so that we got something to say they could sell out of these, but you could no longer bring them in to sell them. You couldn't order anymore, you could sell out of them.
Okay, so pull the key apart, take out the middle here. It's pretty complex. We know how it works and we still can't do it, so.
I don't know if someone's gonna go through the trouble
So
of hiding their
close,
stuff in there,
close.
but.
I won't put it back together, I'll let you play with it for a second.
I did put a lot of just regular Tootsie Rolls in here, okay? So you might be able to hide a pill in there, take it while you're at school, okay, popping candy in your mouth. Okay, that was something that was a trend at one point. I don't know if it still is. But now you have all your THC edibles as well that you have to watch out for. So most of your THC edibles are gonna look exactly like regular candy, okay? And how do you know what's a THC edible versus regular candy, right?
I can share these. So is it called a spoofy? Is that what you called it?
Spoof, yeah.
A spoofy. I had heard it called, this is spoofy brand. I'd heard it called a muffler or a silencer. They'll take a toilet paper roll or a paper towel roll, and they'll stuff dryer sheets in it, and then they'll wrap one around the end so smoke can't come out the side. And so when they blow through it, it comes out with like a fresh scent, so it hides the scent of whatever they're smoking. And this is a company making professional ones to sell. But this is normally you'd see. I've heard that people talk about the paper towels because they can put more in there, so it hides it better and comes out with a very nice aroma. So
But now you don't even need those, right? Now you got your
Now
fruity
you got your
flavors
fruity
and your
vapes.
vapes. If you smell it, it's just a fruity flavor, right? I'm just eating cotton candy in here, Mom.
that's right.
Alright. We've got our marijuana lay. This was a Spencer's gift purchase. It doesn't light up anymore. It used to light up too. It was really fun. A lanyard with the parent advisory on it. That's just an indication for me to talk about language. So language, sex, drugs, it all kind of goes together, okay? So this one has a bottle opener on it as well. But a lot of kids will be wearing the parent advisory shirts, hats, sold next to something that has a pot leaf on it. So it all kind of gets tied together, okay? The same companies are selling very similar things like that. So not necessarily saying that this is something you should be concerned with, but just have a conversation, okay? Just an indication. This is actually kind of fun. I found this in our old supplies. My husband had like an old ruler. I was going through like his stuff from when he was little, and it's a Concerta ruler with a bunch of like school logos and signs on it. medication for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD medication. So they were promoting their ADHD medication to kids on a school ruler. I came across it, I'm like, I'm putting that in our bedroom. All right, what do we got over there, Jacob? I only got tinfoil left over here, so if it's missing from your kitchen and you find it in your child's bedroom, let's have a conversation. Yep, lots of pill bottles. If you're finding pill bottles that they shouldn't have, they should be in a medicine cabinet or locked away.
The logo ripped off, and it's also a container that they'll use to keep THC in. It's just a good reusable container. So if the label is ripped off, it's usually a red flag.
Want to do the Corona? Yeah. Crown Royal bag, right?
The ultimate stash bag because it comes
Okay,
with
right, law enforcement. If you find a Crown Royal bag, what does it mean?
money.
Found goods.
Well, we put a kit in ours, so.
Oh, yeah.
So you can use this to mix up and heat up the substance. Use this to heat up the substance, and then this is actually Narcan, but
Naloxone.
naloxone. And so you probably wouldn't find a syringe in here because it would poke you. They'll probably keep that in a leather case, but it's a good kit bag. It's cheap. It comes with alcohol. It looks pretty, and it's disposable. So if they're really not going to be too upset if they lose it, they'll probably be upset they lose the contents, but.
So the naloxone isn't something that I would actually be worried about because I'm trying to get everyone to be carrying naloxone these days. But that's kind of a talking point that I'm going to be going through now with our Hope Kits. So we recently put together some cool bags. They have our Impact logo on them. These are like a harm reduction bag. So we're trying to do as many trainings as we can to get people trained in how to do opioid overdose prevention and Narcan administration, okay? We do not want people dying, especially nowadays when it's so scary with fentanyl being laced in everything. One pill can kill is a very popular campaign right now, and it's very true. It only takes once for someone to make a choice to use something, and they could be on the ground in need of this life-saving medication. So we're putting these Hope Kits together for agencies to help distribute in the community. The school district was interested in having a few Hope Kits, so if anyone needs a Hope Kit, either contact the health department, the school district, your school nurse. Three Bridges Recovery is a wonderful partner organization we work closely with. They're also a Narcan Direct site, and these also have fentanyl test strips in them. Okay, if someone is addicted to substances, they shouldn't have to use substances with fentanyl in them if they don't know about it. This just gives someone the opportunity to know what they're taking and if they are at a greater risk of an overdose. Okay? Again, we don't want people dying. Okay? We also have CPR face shields in here for administering CPR. We have the Three Bridges Recovery information in here. And we also have a great resource in here. And on the back it has, I want to prevent an overdose. There's resources for how to do that. Protect myself and others. There's resources for how to do that. Get help or treatment. There's resources for how to do that. Okay? Talk to someone who cares. We've got our 988 suicide lifeline on there. We've got the Wood County crisis lines on there. Okay? Great community resources. If you know someone who needs something like this, reach out. These are free. Okay? We're going to distribute these as widely as we can for whoever needs them.
And additional free resource is prescription lock boxes. So I can't tell you how many youth that we had counseled in substance counseling that said that they would get the prescription from a parent, from a grandparent. These lock boxes are something I personally believe in. We made sure to get the most heavy-duty lock boxes we could. You can even bolt these inside of a desk to a wall. And I'm
They're
sure
free.
Yeah, for
Okay?
free. They're
The health
free.
department gets these for free through some funding. Okay? Lock bags. You need to carry stuff around. Okay, they're just like bank bags. You can cut right into them, but out of sight, out of mind. Okay? We also have deter deactivation kits. If you can't get to one of the permanent disposal sites that are located in all of our law enforcement agencies and at a few pharmacies here in town, if you're homebound, you miss one of our take-back events, we have an at-home disposal kit, okay? You put your medications in here, fill it with warm water, wait 30 seconds, it deactivates the drug, you can throw it in your trash.
The lockboxes come with combinations and keys, so if one of that works better for you than the other. And it's a good segue into the Saturday, April 22nd, Take Back event. So if you do have medication that you don't need, make sure to bring that.
I don't think we have a flyer over here, but there's flyers out in the lobby.
If you have medications expired, medication you don't need anymore, make sure to bring that and dispose of that. And Port Edwards, that will be hosted at
Fire
the fire department.
Okay, and we have a whole nother table over here. We've got the book, safe. Okay, they have a number of books. I was disappointed to see they turned one of the Harry Potter books into a book safe. I was really disappointed with that one. But this one we have an Altoids case. Okay, it's got a credit card in it. Okay, it's got a hollowed out pen. And we've also got a pill stash in here. Okay, indication that they may be cutting up a drug, snorting it. We've got green, a pocket guide to pot with just about every strain of marijuana in here that you could possibly think of. Okay. One of the things they also do is they have to sort them out. You've got your sativas, your uppers, okay, all the way down to your hybrids. And then on the back cover, you got your indicas. Your indicas are your downers, your indicouch. Okay, that's how I remember your uppers and your downers. Okay, so
Kind of goes along with
yeah.
the clothes, that the whole culture wanting to know every strand, wanting to know the lore of it. It goes right along with that, kind of making it part of your identity, having the books around.
right, so you kind of think of marijuana as something that's just going to mellow you out, right? It'll give you the munchies. Well, it's not really the case with today's marijuana. Today's marijuana, they're trying to make it as potent as possible. So the more THC to get you high, the better. The less CBD, the stuff that you hear has some benefits to it, the better, because CBD can actually counteract the effects of your THC. Okay.
And it's not the same marijuana from back in the day. We went through training that said one hit of today's, 73% pure THC is the equivalent to several joints back in the late 70s.
Yeah, that's known as ditchweed. That was like, what, 3 to 6% THC? That wasn't anything compared to your, naturally occurring 25 to 30% THCs that we're seeing grown today. The concentrates that we're seeing now as well, up to 90-some% concentrated THC, that's where you're going to start seeing your overdoses. Okay? Your THC marijuana overdoses do not look the same as an opioid overdose, okay? Or an overdose from other substances. A THC overdose may look like psychosis, okay? It's going to look a little bit different. They're just going to be out of it, not really know what's going on. Parents probably won't know what's going on.
And there's a new THC concentrate, the Delta 8, Delta 10, just a bunch of hemp-derived THC products where they'll take the hemp plant, break it down to CBD, and then break that CBD down to find the THC contents in the CBD, and then they'll put that on gummies, they'll put it in vapes, and we have handout information on it. We did put an age restriction on it because it is a hemp product, and because of the hemp farm bill, it was a legal product. But we did put a restriction in Wood County to the age of 21. So before that, these products were legal to sell to any age.
Right, and your Delta 8 and your Delta 10, they're not new, okay? They're naturally occurring in the cannabis plant. But when you concentrate them, they can be as psychoactive or close to as psychoactive as your regular marijuana products that you're going to see in states with legalization in those dispensaries. Okay, when you concentrate things, that's what's going to happen. So when they have their, their hemp-derived CBD, then they do a little chemistry to make a concentrate, and they add it to these other products. That's where we're starting to talk with our partners in the community, and we're seeing issues. Okay, you see,
Marketed as therapeutic,
Yeah.
but it doesn't cause anxiety because
Right.
it's not as potent as the Delta 9. They
it's
try
a
to market
lighter
that.
high, right?
It's a milder high. That's how
But
they
do the
market it.
schools want students experiencing a milder high at school? Because that's what we're seeing in a lot of the vapes nowadays, It's not always nicotine. There's a lot of THC in the vapes at school. Okay? And it's not just the smoke shops and the vape shops that are selling these products. Jacob and I did a community scan. It's gas stations, convenience stores. It was a local grocery store. Okay, they had them at the adult novelty store. There was a liquor store selling them. Okay,
I
so
went
if
to-
you don't think your kids have access to it, do they go to grocery stores or gas stations by themselves?
We did a scan at a gas station and they had a big display up front, and the owner told me that they go through it so fast that he was shocked there was anything for us to see there.
So the things I'm holding is actually to handle some of the concentrates, waxes, dabs, honeys, oils. So we've got our little honey pot here. It's got a honeycomb on it with a bee and your lovely Rasta colors. Okay, the silicone helps it not stick.
Yep.
So if you use your little tool here to scoop some out, you put it on your mat here. Okay, and then this you put onto a product used for smoking these concentrates. You have to get it to a lot hotter temperature, so we actually have a blowtorch in here, a culinary torch, because you have to heat these products a lot hotter than your typical like marijuana joints, for example, that you would smoke.
And they're very hard to clean. So you would find some sort of a smear or trace, almost look like burnt molasses on there.
It's also got, this one's called a honey pocket, okay? Your fit nicely into a back pocket or something like that to carry it around.
It goes along with the CD case. So the CD case is kind of the perfect sorting. I mean, you use it to sort pills or separate stems and seeds if they do that anymore for marijuana. And then also when you open it, it's got these nice little windows here that keeps it from falling out. So you use it to sort and chop up cocaine as well. So it's kind of the ultimate sorting and shifting. It's sturdy. It's perfect straight line. If you want to, it kind of opens up to a little holder.
We've got a grinder here, so used to grind up your herbs, right? Marijuana product. Also purchased the iHit for your iPhone. Okay, it's a case that actually holds your joints in there for you. Okay. The hat just has, a cush on it again with the marijuana leaves. We have quite a few hats. We went over the cough syrup, the gummy bears. Okay, another thing that there was a trend where you could soak the gummy bears in alcohol and ingest that way. Also, again, thinking about the marijuana edibles and products that could contain THC products.
I know we talked about the brown bag and inhaling. You can also inhale anything with a heavy fume, as we mentioned, but also air dropper can be inhaled. They make some with like a mustard taste to it, so it's not as easily abused. But then they also do whipped cream. These are called whippets. Right on cue.
Portage County's phones are working again.
Nice.
So they call it a whippet. They also have those homemade canisters where you can buy CO2 and put it in and make whipped cream at home. So they'll use those. There's actually a brand that sells them, and they'll actually call it whippet, solely for the intent to be used like that.
And we've heard this is a popular thing in the Wisconsin Rapids area to be driving down, driving down the strip in Rapids doing whippets. Okay, that is a common thing in this area. The strip.
I just saw it the other-
in Rapids.
I just saw it the other day, so I believe it.
Paper plane, flying high, any indication of flying high. Do you have anything else in the drawers over here? Otherwise, we've got the backpack.
Yeah, go ahead. I can talk about impact too.
Yeah. All right, so not only at home, carrying backpacks on them. Again, if you've got that gut feeling, you want to check things out, go through the backpack, see what you find. The body spray could just be a cover-up of masking smells. That's not really, out of the ordinary for kids to have body spray. Seedless is another brand that just to be aware of. That Seedless is another clothing brand to be aware of. We'll keep going through. Alright. We've got some more silicone products. There's little ones that look like bouncy balls that open up. Hide your concentrates in there. Okay, here's another one that almost looks like a Carmex case, cylinder version of one. We actually have a Carmex case. And then we've got Sharpie markers. Okay, these are also stash compartments. Okay, opens right up. The Sharpie actually does work, you can write with it, but there's a lot of things that can be used as stash compartments. Highlighter, you can kind of see there's something in this one, but they actually make highlighters that are actual stash compartments. I think I just took the back off of this one to make it a stash compartment. They also have highlighter pipes that you take the back off of the highlighter and it's a pipe. That one's on my wish list and I saw they sell it locally here in town, so I might go grab one.
$4.20 buy, right? And in this purse, we have some lipstick that's also a stash compartment.
Not your shade, Jacob.
It's not my shade. That's her joke.
We do have a syringe in here. Okay. Smoke. This one is smokepromos.com. So these are supposed to be the scent-proof tubes.
This one's a little more discreet. It's not obvious that's a silicone case, but when you open it, silicone to hold wax.
Alright, I think we're getting through most of this now. Okay. This one is a smokeless tobacco. These are nicotine pouches. So just be aware of the different nicotine products. We actually have a nice display set up over here. So if you want to see some of the different vapes, and you can actually smell the fruity flavor over there as well. Some of those are off the shelf already. I don't know if you heard about the flavor ban a few years ago with the individual pods. That wasn't a full ban. It was a restriction. A flavor restriction is what we called it. Because it only had to do with the individual pods that were being sold, like your Juul pods, for example. They can't sell Juul anymore either. But those could not be flavored. Your other e-juices, e-liquids, if they had a product or a vape that you put the e-juice in, those could still be any flavor. Okay, so just be aware of that.
An old makeup container. That's what this is, right?
Yep.
The makeup's cleaned out and using that area to stash.
I'll put this over here with the vape display. So if you want to look at some of the vapes, you can come over and take a look. I took most of these out of the packaging so you can kind of see what the different vapes look like. Again, they don't sell these anymore. This was actually purchased from Marshfield Tobacco Compliance Check, but I always like to point out that strawberry milk was one of the flavors because what adult doesn't love vaping strawberry milk? Who is that targeting? Okay. We've got some of the e-juices up here, some of the little individual containers of the liquid. Okay. And you can kind of smell the fruity flavor when you come over some of the different things. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, before we hand you off, I want to point out, we do have some handouts about the hemp-derived cannabinoids that we were talking about the ordinance. No, this doesn't have the ordinance on it, but just about the problems that we're seeing with it and what it is, if you want to educate yourself more on that.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, Jacob's being modest about this ordinance because Wood County was the first ordinance in the state to pass an age restriction on these hemp-derived cannabinoids. And that's huge, okay? We put an age restriction of 21 and older on it. And now we have a lot of other surrounding counties. We actually had someone from the CDC contact us and talk about how we got this ordinance passed and the process that we took to get this ordinance passed. Okay, because kids should not be getting access, unrestricted access to these products. But when we're hearing from our community partners like the schools, that we're seeing it in schools, when we're hearing from healthcare that there's a toddler infant presenting in their emergency department who ingested an edible, okay, when we're hearing from a neighboring county that a student overdosed on a THC product that they bought across the school at a gas station, okay? Those are the types of stories that we need to hear about, and we did that community scan and said, yeah, let's put the pieces together. We looked at our YRBS, our Youth Risk Behavior Survey data, and said, yeah, students don't think there's a problem with using marijuana. Those are the things that helped us pass an age restriction on these products that are concentrated, okay? We excluded CBD from that ordinance. We're not seeing an issue with CBD. We're gonna focus on where there's an issue. So your Delta 8s, your Delta 10s, your HHCs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's
A lot.
hundreds of chemicals in the cannabis plant, okay? A lot of them are intoxicating. So we wanted to make sure that we restrict that access. Because when we go into a shop and they said, yeah, I let kids in here all the time, I wouldn't sell to an 8-year-old. That's when we say, you know what? Something's gotta give, okay? So that's when we pass an age restriction on that.
If you want to learn more about Impact, the Community Coalition efforts, we do have a year in review of all that we were up to in 2022. We're also having a community engagement event on May 1st. All these handouts are out there. So if you want to come and get some pizza, and Starbucks is coming with some drinks and some other goods, and just learn more about Impact and the effort that we're doing in the community, we would love to have you there. And most importantly, we do also have a sign-up sheet out there. So if you'd like to be part of substance prevention in your community, we work on youth substance prevention, adult substance misuse, and just helping foster the recovery environment here in Wood County. So if that's something you're interested in, no commitment if you sign up for this. You can just see what we're up to. You can receive the emails, the minutes, the agendas. But if you want to come to the meetings, if you want to get your hands dirty and do some of the work, we'd love to have you be part of it. So there will be a sign-up sheet out there, and I will, if you want to be part of it, I will be happy to add you to it.
Do you have any questions for us before we move on with our presentation? We went over a lot, okay? A lot of things. Okay, there's a lot of resources out there. There's a marijuana talk toolkit out there. If you want to talk to your child about the dangers of marijuana use, they've got talking points for that. Even if you do use marijuana products yourself, there's talking points. Well, I use it, but why shouldn't my child use it? Okay? There's also the Real Talks campaign out there through the Department of Health Services. It's a great resource. And a lot of these are on your handouts that are tied to this presentation as well.
So scan the QR code, and there's a bunch of resources on there. And at the top, it'll say click here for additional resources. It'll lead you to a drive. All the handouts we talked about today will be on there, and the stuff that Ashley just talked about as well. So
I think the biggest takeaway, have regular age-appropriate conversations with kids in your life. Okay? If you find an opportunity to talk to them, have that conversation. Okay? Figure out what it is they need to talk about. If they're stressed about something, dig in a little bit, show you care. Okay? Those are the big things. And most of all, if your gut's telling you something's wrong and your kid doesn't want to talk to you, find someone they can talk to. Who is a trusted adult? Okay? Figure out who that is, make sure you're having that conversation or someone is having that conversation.
And reach out to me and Ashley if you have any questions. And we have tons of resources on top of what we brought here today. We have a lot of stuff. We have fridge locks, magnet stickers. We have a lot of stuff. So if there's anything you're interested, reach out to us and we'll be happy to accommodate.
Thank you very much, Ashley and Jacob. The work that you're doing is so needed. I mean, everywhere, but especially here in central Wisconsin. I remember being in high school, and the Say No to Drugs motto was really big nationwide, and I think that was effective for a while. But it seems like drugs have taken on a new life of their own over the last several years and have become just all too trendy. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing to put a stop to it. Let's hope. At this time, I would like to introduce the LEO program. LEO, or Learn and Empower Oneself, is an evidence-based, interactive substance prevention program that seeks to empower youth to understand their unique brains and quickly improve resilience, adaptability, and fearlessness in a rapidly changing world. Throughout the 6 hours of curriculum taught to middle school students and 8 hours taught to high school, students learn about how and why they may respond to stress the way that they do, based on understanding the history of the human survival brain, or as taught in LEO, the lower brain. As youth learn to activate the newest part of the brain, also known as the higher brain, with the LEO program's curriculum key tools, they are able to reduce stress and anxiety, as well as improve memory, creativity, self-awareness, and overall quality of life, each of which are key factors in preventing substance abuse. The LEO program serves youth ages 12 through 20 and works with school and community partners to deliver curriculum to the youth of Wood County. The LEO program is operated by CW Solutions in partnership with Wood County Human Services. It is funded through the Brighter Future Initiative Substance Prevention Grant through the Wisconsin Department of Children and Families. Tana Delaney. All right, I get a gold star tonight.
You got it.
All right, thank you, Tana. Tana is the LEO coordinator of Central Wisconsin Solutions, serving Wood County. Tana was born and raised in the Wausau area, but came to Stevens Point for college in 2009. Tana graduated from UW Stevens Point with a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. She has explored many roles within the realms of education and human services since graduating, including substitute teaching, working with the Student Government Association at UW Stevens Point, therapeutic mentoring youth at risk out-of-home placement in Lincoln, Langlade, Marathon counties, and most recently, case managing out of Inclusive's Wisconsin Rapids office for adult family care members diagnosed with cognitive or physical disabilities, dementia, and mental health disorders. Tana has been in her current role with CW Solutions a little over a year, celebrating her one-year work anniversary March 1st. Tana continues to reside in Stevens Point with her spouse, Joe, and 2 cats, Cece and Echo. In her spare time, Tana enjoys participating in local community theater and has been involved in over 30 productions. Working with Tana tonight is Officer Andrew Berg of the Wood County Police Department. I'm very sorry, Andrew, I don't have a lovely biography about you, but thank you for your service and welcome as well, Andrew. Audience, please welcome Tana Delaney and Andrew Berg.
My goodness, you got the name. Please give it up for Jim Bina, Fort Edwards, for hosting this event, and everybody else that is here tonight. So, lovely, warm welcome. Thank you so much for having me here. As mentioned, I'm Tana Delaney, LEO coordinator. The program, Learn and Empower Oneself. So we are a substance prevention program. And I work for the company CW Solutions, and we are a private human service agency, and we partner with Wood County. And so we are able to go into schools and teach this substance prevention curriculum. So that's kind of the background. The program has been in existence, it's pretty new, since 2019. So, and we are grant funded through Department of Children and Families, through Brighter Futures Initiative, or BFI grant. So sometimes we're called the BFI team or LEO, both mean the same thing. But it really got started because there was just evidence that there wasn't a lot of substance prevention programming, right? And maybe some of us have heard of DARE. Raise your hand if you've heard of DARE. Maybe some of us went through it. I know I did. But unfortunately, it wasn't evidence-based, and it did not work, really. Like evidence showed, years and years of evidence showed that it just did not work. So, you know, people put their thinking caps on and they're like, how can we do this? How can we do this in a different way, right? So Wood County got together and they took some data and they found that kids just really had no programming, and they also found that there was a need, right? So I know Ashley and Jacob mentioned the YRBS, the Youth Rate Behavior Survey. So they take that every year, the state gets data. It showed that definitely there was a need for it in our program. So we got it started. So what is LEO? So I'm gonna show you a couple of handouts that we have, okay? So I have a cool table out there with the blue tablecloth, and we have a lot of fun toys. So if you're interested after hearing what I have to say tonight, you can just grab this. This is a 2-pager, just gives a little bit of a blurb of what we do, right? And so we go into high schools. We have partnered with a number of high schools in Wood County. We're embedded in quite a few at this point. We're embedded at Lincoln, we're embedded at River Cities, which is the alternative high school. We are embedded at Columbus Catholic, which is in Marshfield. But we go in and we partnered with these schools, and we built amazing partnerships. in this community. And we go in and we teach this 8-hour curriculum, substance prevention curriculum for high school. And we just debuted our middle school curriculum this fall. We have an amazing middle school coordinator, and it's 6 hours for that. But what is it based on, right? You're probably all like, what is this thing? What is Leo, right? So Leo is, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a spiel how we go into the classroom. So I teach in high school. So I teach at Nakusa, I've covered at Lincoln, I've covered at some of the other schools. Basically, our program is based on understanding your brain, okay? That's what it's all about, understanding your brain and understanding that we all deal with stress and why we deal with stress and why we react the way we do. So we super simplify it. So we are not scientists in Leo. We're very upfront about that. We are not scientists. But we teach kids about the 2 parts of their brain. We super simplify it. So 2 parts of the brain, okay? So the first part is the lower brain. So I know we kind of mentioned it in the intro, right? Lower brain, also known as the survival brain, okay? Has anyone ever heard fight, flight, freeze? You heard that? Yeah? So this is how we teach it. So we talk about, imagine that it is not 2023, okay? Imagine that we are not at the Port Edwards High School today. Imagine we don't have cell phones. Imagine we don't have social media. We don't have technology. We don't have any of that. We are hundreds of thousands of years ago. We are cave people, okay? We are tribal people. We are hunter-gatherers, okay? So life is very simple. Life, as you probably can imagine, it's all about survival, right? So survival. So what are some of those survival things? Shout it out at me. What are the things we would need to survive? Water. What else? Shelter. I heard food. What else did I hear? Clothing, right? Super, super basic things. So pretend with me just for a minute. So we are, let's call ourselves Tribe Leo, okay? We're Tribe Leo. And we are all just in it to survive and make sure that we can make it through the winter. And we just got snow again today, right? We know how unpredictable everything is, the weather is. So we need some people that are willing to go out and get the food that we talked about, right? The hunters. So who's brave today? Who wants to be my hunters? Anybody brave? Anybody? Yes, Jim. Give it up for Jim. He's my hunter. All right, so you're gonna go on a little journey with me, okay? So the rest of you, you're all gathering, you're doing different things. Maybe you're gathering firewood or something, keeping the cave warm, okay? So we're gonna go out. We have to hunt, all right? So we go out, we're going out in the cave, right? Okay? All of a sudden you hear a little rustle. Like, wait, what do you think that is? I don't know, do you see anything? Oh gosh! Oh, there's something. I heard his name is Leo too. He's the other Leo. Yeah. So besides Leo, well, you know, we're not quite sure what it is, right? We're not quite sure. Should we keep going? Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. A little bit louder this time. Uh-oh. What do you think it is? Can you see anything?
It's dark. We don't have light. It's dark.
All right, let's be brave. Let's try one more time. We're going. Really, really, really loud this time. Oh my gosh, what is it? You turn around, and you came face to face with, pretend, I am the saber-toothed tiger. I am the saber-toothed tiger. What are you gonna do? Oh, yes, go ahead, take a seat. Give it up for Jenna, our hunter. So that is a great example. You basically just showed me exactly why we respond the way that we do. That is one reaction that we can have when you come upon something like that. So way back when you're coming across the saber-toothed tiger, right? Or some other type of wild animal, you might run away, right? So that's part of that fight, flight, freeze. That's the flight. That's the I'm running away. I am going to break world records and I am going to get the heck out of Dodge before anything else even happens, right? Then there's the fighters. So would anybody in this room feel comfortable taking on a saber-toothed tiger? No. Maybe, okay, Katie, yeah, Katie. She might be a fighter, right? So maybe that's all right, well, I gotta hunt anyway, right? Like I am gonna go get the food and I'm gonna do this. We're gonna hunt, we're gonna fight. Who would be the people that were like, it's the freeze response, right? It's the, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna not blink, I'm not gonna breathe, I'm not gonna look the thing in the face, I'm just gonna not do anything and maybe it'll back away. Who would be that person? Anybody? Yeah, thank you for being brave. Absolutely. So you can imagine, because the way that our brains and our bodies developed, that is why we have this fight, flight, freeze response. Well, that was life hundreds of thousands of years ago, way back when. So pretend now we're back. Okay, we're back. We put the past in the past. Now we're back at 2023. We're here. We're in John Edwards High School, right? Our lower brain that reacts that way with that fight, flight, freeze, because hundreds of thousands of years of trying to figure out, like, literally just how to survive, right, and evade wild animals and just stay safe, our lower brain became super duper strong, right? Super strong. It's actually 3 to 4 times stronger than the other part of our brain that we're gonna talk about. So, because our lower brain is so strong and it's been doing this for so long, the newest part of our brain, it hasn't really had a chance to catch up quite yet, right? And the lower brain will sometimes just take over, right? So the higher brain, that's the other part of the brain. That's the newest part of the brain, okay? So the newest part of the brain, higher brain, it is this ability to see the big picture, okay? It's this ability to see like the bird's eye view, right? You're a beautiful bird and you're soaring and you see everything, right? It is our ability to creatively problem solve, okay? Take another perspective, right? But sometimes those two parts of the brain, they don't always get along, right? Because lower brain takes over if we don't feel safe, because lower brain wants to be safe all of the time. So I'm gonna teach you our little hand model that we teach the students, and it's really helpful in remembering the high brain, lower brain. So everybody go ahead, put a hand up. Yeah, wave to your neighbor. Yeah. All right, hand here. So this part, this is our forearm, represents our forearm. So you can touch your forearm and then take your finger and just touch the back of your neck, okay? So that is your brainstem, essentially. Okay, spinal cord and brainstem. So then let's move up. Let's go to your palm, okay? So touch your palm. So your palm represents that lower brain, okay? It's really big. Your palm is really, really big. So it's like the lower brain, 3 to 4 times stronger, okay? Now, take your thumb with me. Wiggle your thumb around. All right, move it around. Okay, cross it over your palm, okay? This, and I'm not gonna quiz you later, I promise, but the thumb represents your amygdala, okay? Amygdala, super complicated part of the brain, but for all intents and purposes here in Leo, it is our emotional hub, okay? It's also our fear and anxiety alarm bell. Basically, when there is any time that lower brain feels threatened, doesn't feel safe, amygdala starts to kind of quake and shake, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I like this, right? So go ahead, move your little amygdala around, okay? So then you've got your 4 fingers, okay? Just wave them around a little bit. That represents your higher brain, okay? Remember that source of that big picture, newest part of the brain. Go ahead, take your 4 fingers, wrap it around your thumb. I know it might feel a little funky, but that's okay. Wrap it around your thumb, and you see that this is all connected, okay? Lower brain, higher brain, everything connected. That's what we call baseline. That's when we are feeling safe. And when we are in our higher brain, we call it cool, calm, and collected, okay? So, higher brain, cool, calm, collected. But guess what? Let's just for a split second, let's think back to when we were hunting the saber-toothed tiger. And don't get scared, it's gonna be okay, I promise. But when you come face to face with that saber-toothed tiger, all of a sudden that lower brain is like, oh my gosh, danger. And it happens in the blink of an eye. It happens so quickly that we don't even consciously process it. It happens so quickly. And what happens is what we call in Leo, go ahead, do this with me, do that a little bit. That's called flipping your lid. That's what we call flipping your lid in Leo, when essentially that lower brain has completely taken over, okay? And the higher brain is no longer online. It didn't go away completely, it's still there, but it's kind of out here somewhere. It's floating around back here somewhere, right? So like before, when we were cool, calm, collected, higher brain was in the driver's seat. But when we flip our lid, lower brain bumps on over. Lower brain was in the passenger seat, bumps over, starts driving the car. Higher brain is like, oh, how do I get back, right? So in our program, we teach the youth we teach them, first of all, the difference, right? What flipping your lid, lower brain feels like and looks and feels like, but also what it means and feels like to be in that higher brain, that cool, calm, collected piece, okay? So now you're starting to understand, okay, this is why we respond to stress the way that we do, but we know that the higher brain hasn't always caught up, right? And so some of those things that stress us out now, it's not gonna be that saber-toothed tiger. It's gonna be maybe family. It's gonna be maybe friends. Most of us are adults here, right? Like maybe your job, maybe you have a hard day at work sometimes. Maybe if you're a parent, it's your kiddos, right? But it's not the same thing. It's not a true survival thing. Lower brain developed because it was threatened and it was like, oh gosh, like something serious is gonna happen. My life is in jeopardy. My survival's in jeopardy. Well, if you have a fight with like a friend or a family member or maybe a hard day at work, that lower brain can still take over, but it's not true survival anymore, right? So that's how it all works. And so what we focus on in our program is we teach kids, so we teach the basics first, and then we start teaching kids about dopamine. Who here has heard of dopamine? What is dopamine? Most of us know. What is it? Shout it out at me. There you go. Happy, yes, I heard, thank you. A couple folks brought it up. It's happy feel-good chemical. Now, I always preface this, I say it is not the only happy feel-good chemical in our brain, but it's the one we focus on in Leo because it is tied to our reward center, right? And so as we get stressed sometimes, that lower brain takes over, we flip our lid. Cortisol, we all heard of cortisol, stress hormone, right? Cortisol goes way up. And so what does our brain and body want? It's like, I don't feel safe. Like fight, flight, freeze took over, right? I don't feel safe. My cortisol's all here. It's flooding my body. What do I want? I want dopamine. I want to match the dopamine. And so sometimes kids go out and they reach outside themselves. They reach out for things like substances. Maybe they're reaching for alcohol. Maybe they're reaching for marijuana. Maybe they're reaching for cocaine or fentanyl or any of the other things, right, that we saw in that presentation. But what we want to teach is kids how to figure out how to get that dopamine for themselves, right? Because when we get that dopamine from that external thing, right, it's a really nice thing surge. It feels really, really good. All of a sudden, our levels are matched, our cortisol dopamine match. However, as soon as that thing is gone, well, then the dopamine is gone, right? So we teach kids how to figure out how they can get that dopamine internally, okay? We teach them tools like gratitude, mindfulness, all kinds of different great things. Another thing that we do is we teach about higher brain communication, okay? So I have talked to you all about maybe sometimes like when you think about having really difficult conversations, right? Starting some of those conversations about like possible substance use. Maybe you see some things in the bedroom and you're like, I want to approach my kid, but I don't really know where to start, right? There are some great resources that we already mentioned, the Small Talks campaign, things like that. But I can also offer you some other things as well, some other suggestions that our program teaches. So one tool that we do teach our kids, and I honestly think it's useful for everyone, is called higher brain communication. So higher brain communication is probably what you can imagine. It's not letting that fight, flight, freeze take over when you have a difficult conversation. It's not having lower brain take over. It's really focusing on how to stay cool, calm, collected in that higher brain. And it's really all about creating safety in the conversation for both parties, right? And I know it can feel really difficult to start that. And so maybe if a kid comes to you and there's like a disagreement or something, or maybe you go to the kid and they're like, I want to talk about this. And then all of a sudden they're like, they know what you want to talk about, they flip their lid. Well, quite often, if someone is in their lower brain, they flip their lid. Studies have shown that brain waves mirror each other, okay? And so if someone is in their lower brain, how do you think is most likely the other person's going to react? If somebody comes at you with their lid flip, how do you think that other person is gonna come at them? Are they gonna be in their higher brain? Or probably lower brain, right? But if you start in your higher brain, it's the same way. The brain waves mirror each other the other way as well, right? They're probably gonna be in their higher brain as well. And so higher brain communication, it's really a way to communicate your needs in a really healthy way. And it's a way to use I statements, and definitely not, making accusations or anything like that. It's saying, hey, I perceive, that you're doing this, or I've seen this, right? Tell me about that a little bit more, right? Using those I statements and talking about what you observed, talking about how that makes you feel, and just being really honest about that, but also maintaining that safety throughout that conversation, right? And then sharing what you need and what you would like to happen next time, right? And so we're able to do that, and it becomes, when you do that, it really transforms your conversations, even really hard, big, difficult conversations, it transforms them into being really empowering. And I think we can all agree, we want to empower our youth. We want to empower ourselves, we want to empower our youth, right? And so I just want to show you this handout that I have also. This is the second handout I wanted to share as well. So we've got this higher brain communication one as well, and kind of lays out the 4 steps of the say what you saw or heard, say how it made you feel, say what you need, and say what you would like to happen as you move forward, okay? And another piece of this, right, sometimes these conversations, really difficult conversations, they can be really emotionally charged, right? That's like prime moment for the lid flip to happen, right? But we also keep in mind, we keep in consideration with higher brain communication is that emotions are a language. We teach that to our youth in our program. We actually do a couple of sessions on emotions and how to identify them. And you would be shocked by how many students have no idea how to even identify their own emotions and what that feels like in their body. And so quite often we'll show a picture, we'll say, is this person happy, mad, sad, whatever? And they'll say, oh, well, they're happy. And you say, well, how do you know that they're happy? And they say, well, they're just happy. And then you ask them to dive deeper, and you're like, well, as they start to think about it, they're like, okay, I see that, she's smiling, right? Or her eyes are there's the smile lines by her eyes. They start to pay attention to those things. And higher brain communication brings it full circle with really bringing those emotions into it and not stepping away from them, right? Even if it's a heightened, hard conversation, we lean into that. That's what higher brain communication is all about. Leaning into that, attending to that sensation in your body and working it out together and just approaching it mutually in a very safe way. So as I mentioned, I've got the 2 handouts. We've also got some other really cool things out there meant to be conversation starters. So like I said, we do, our program, it's 8 hours in high school and 6 hours in middle school. It's lots of activities, tons of activities. So some of the things that are at the table out there are things that we make with the kids in our curriculum to teach them these tools. So I think that's all I've got. Does anyone have questions for me? I have been with just a little over a year.
Okay.
So March 1st.
About 4 years ago, during testing, we broke up sections.
Yes. Yeah, the program itself has been in existence since 2019, but yeah, I've been with the program since March 1st of last year. So yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
So if I find something in my kid's bedroom,
Yes.
what's the best way to respond? If I find that peanut butter jar and I'm missing my peanut butter and I realize that's not a peanut butter jar,
So let me ask you this. So how do you think you would feel? Just if
I
you
would be ticked. I just
You'd
know
be
the type
ticked.
of person I am, and I even know that I shouldn't respond this way, but I
Yeah.
just know, being the type of person I am, I'm gonna flip my lid.
Okay.
So I know that I need to take some time and cool off a little bit before I have that conversation.
So Ashley, that's step 1. So that's great, understanding, oh gosh, I know I might flip my lid. We actually make, out at the table, we make mind jars with the kids, glitter mind jars, and they represent this tool, which is called, am I in my higher brain or lower brain? And it's literally asking yourself that question when you know you're on your way to that lid flip. Like, even if you're not full out here, like, maybe you're here, right? And you're like, oh, I know if I keep going, like, it's gonna happen. So we have the kids make the mind jars, and that's what we actually do in our very first session. And they're filled with like hot water and glitter and glue, and they shake them up. And so we show them it's that tangible tool to remember that question: am I in higher brain or lower brain? So you shake it up and it's all chaotic, right? You can't really see through it. That represents the lid flip. Well, what do? We set that glitter jar on the table. We give it some time. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's a day, right? You have to get to know yourself and what you need to take that pause, right? And after you go away, you take that break, you ask yourself the question, am I in higher brain or lower brain? Then that gets the blood starting, that shifts in your brain. It slows everything down. You take that break, you take that pause, you take that breath, go for a walk, listen to some music, whatever it is for you, and then you come back and then you reapproach. So there you go. So if you do you have what you mentioned, you have a mind jar, I think, right?
I do have a mind jar.
Okay, so keep.
So when Jacob's ticking me off.
That's right. You shake that baby up, and you're like, oh, I need that little break, right? But so absolutely. So I would absolutely encourage you. And I will say I have like 3 mind jars. We all us Leo coordinators, we have tons of mind jars. Everybody loves the mind jars. They love the glitter mind jars because it represents that tool. But that second piece. So after you come back, right? How do you initiate that conversation? Just approach it with love and just use those I statements. Take that ownership and just create safety. It's all about creating safety. Because remember, if you are not part of creating safety for those hard conversations, it's really likely that the lid flip could happen on either side, right? And then lower brain is taken over, higher brain's off somewhere, and it's really hard to bring it back online sometimes. So, thank you for all the questions. Anybody else? All right, thank you so much, everybody.
All right, bring it up the rear. My name is, as I was introduced before, my name is Andrew Berg, and I work for the Nakusa Police Department. I've been employed there for about 9 years. I have about 14 years of law enforcement altogether cumulatively. I do live in the city of Nakusa with my family. My wife's a teacher at Humke Elementary, and I have 2 sons. It's very important. Drug-related stuff like this is very important for me because I want my family to grow up in a very safe environment and community. So I really enjoy speaking about these issues. I also have a police canine who I've been partnered with for the last 4 years. So doing dope work is kind of a task of mine, and I feel like I'm pretty well rehearsed and knowledgeable in it. I've been asked to come here today for just some drug identification and some current drug trends. That varies, and you can get pretty detailed with that. However, as we learned before with the awesome presentation, there's lots of different areas where things can be hidden. Some of these areas are very small. We might not be looking for large bricks or totes of drugs, right? We're looking for very small amounts. And that's very trendy in Wood County. We don't have a lot of huge drug dealers in Wood County. They don't carry pounds of substances, right? What they do is they sell smaller amounts of substances to therefore support their own habits. So you may be looking for grams. When I talk about a gram, could be pencil tip worth of substances that you're trying to locate. I'll start with marijuana and go up through methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and ecstasy. So marijuana, probably the most common drug, can come in a leafy green plant-like substance, has an odor to it, smells like a skunk. Sometimes it comes in like a leafy material, might replicate like a oregano cooking seasoning, or it's commonly referred to as a bud. It has a green coloration to it, has some kind of reddish or maroon texturing to it, as well as if you look at it very closely, it has like a crystalline substance to it. The main ingredient in the marijuana that people are trying to get high from is Delta-9. That's what we're trying to keep off the streets, but the derivative of those is Delta-8 and Delta-10, which are considered legal in the state of Wisconsin, but do have effects on people if used in concentrated substances. So marijuana also comes in different types of substances. It comes in that green leafy plant material, but what it also does is that it's highly concentrated. Sometimes people melt that substance down that's located on the marijuana. They'll shake off those crystals, and they concentrate it. So it goes from 15 to 30% concentrated THC, which is what you would find in the marijuana bud, to upwards of 90, 95, 97% concentrated THC waxes, liquids. Those things are added mostly into, you can smoke them themselves, but you can add them into food as well. People put them in butters, which is very common for cooking, like marijuana cookies, brownies, stuff like that. So you can add those into your food. Along with that is that those concentrated waxes also get put into small vape cartridges. And when I say a vape cartridge, it has a very small mouthpiece on it. They're glass. They're probably 1.5 to 2 inches long, and they come in a small package. The package is usually labeled, it says Maui Meds, M-A-U-I, Meds. And most likely it will have some sort of marijuana leaf in a triangle with an exclamation point in it that shows that it's a THC product. Those are used on electronic cartridges. So you have like it's a vape pen. It kind of looks like a stylus or a pen. You screw that cartridge onto the top, you push the electronic igniter button on the side of it. It heats that substance that's inside of those, the concentrated THC wax, and then you smoke that. Those usually are packaged in about 1 gram. So we typically, as law enforcement, we find either raw product, which is the marijuana buds themselves, or these concentrated THCs or waxes. They can also come in what is considered shatter, is the common street term for it. It kind of looks like earwax. When you look at it, it's a brown, sticky substance, and it is hard, kind of like a rock. You can put that into a bowl, a smoking device. If you light that up, it melts it, creates a vapor or a smoke. You inhale that, you get high. Another thing that they do is they'll concentrate those waxes. They'll put those waxes in these small silicone containers. That's considered a dab. They'll take a little metal device, they'll scoop a little bit of that wax out of there, they'll put it into a small metal smoking device. Common names for those are nectar collectors. So it's got a bee on it, it replicates, they'll put that into a metal smoking device, you heat that wax up as well, it emits a smoke or a vapor. You inhale that as well, and that's highly concentrated. That will get you significantly high and impaired. Moving off of marijuana, we'll go into cocaine. Cocaine we're seeing an influx come back in from earlier times. It's very smaller amounts. We're not seeing significant heavy amounts, but it still is prominent. Cocaine is mostly carried in plastic baggies. You'll see it tied off. Kind of looks like a flowery substance. It's mostly white in a powder. Off of cocaine comes crack. Crack is also known as a cocaine substance. You see that, it's got either a yellow or a pink hue tint to it. It's kind of like a cookie crumble. It might crumble apart a little bit. That is commonly smoked through a glass pipe. Glass pipes vary in sizes. Most of them are small, so they can be kept in a pocket, bag, or purse. And what they use for a filter for that is called Chore Boy. Has anybody heard of Chore Boy? Chore Boy is it's used as filtration. They stick that in the end of the glass pipe. They put their crack in the end of that. So as they light their crack and it ignites and burns, they don't suck it into their mouth. So you see the crack pipe, the Chore Boy, any other like steel substance that they can drive in there to create their filter. From cocaine and crack, move into methamphetamine. Methamphetamine is probably the most prominent drug besides marijuana that we have in Wood County. We find a lot of methamphetamine. It's cheap and it is a high stimulant, so it gets people high for approximately 3 to 6 hours, depending on how much you use. You can get used to it, so the more you smoke, the more you're going to have to smoke to continue the same high. But that is a crystalline substance. It's usually white in nature. It looks like shards of glass. It can come in big, heavier pieces. But that's normally sold in insignificant amounts, a gram or two at a time. Most users of those will sell what's called a point. 1 point is 1/10 of a gram. That's a typical using amount. So if you think of 1/10 of a gram of a substance, you're thinking very, very small amounts. That's kept mostly in gem baggies or plastic baggies. If you see plastic baggies that are stretched out, that look like they've been tied off, or little gem baggies that are approximately 1 inch by 1 inch, they look like a little Ziploc. They have a little Ziploc top. They can get a little bit bigger than that, but most of the ones that we find are about 1 by 1. And they have like a crystalline residue or substance in it. It was most likely carrying methamphetamine. Moving off of methamphetamine is heroin and fentanyl. Those kind of go together because a lot of people believe that they're buying heroin nowadays, and most of it is fentanyl. Fentanyl is a synthetic produced medication that is used mostly as a tranquilizer. But people do ingest it. You can, same with methamphetamine, go back to that. Methamphetamine can be, you can shoot it intravenously through an injection. You can smoke that, or you can snort it. All three ways will work to introduce that into the body. Same with heroin or fentanyl. You can smoke it, you can inject it, you can cook it down in those cooking dishes into a liquid form. Then you're placing a little cotton swab into that liquid. You're putting the point of your syringe needle into that. You're drawing that substance up into your needle, and then you're injecting that into your body. Or you can snort it. A lot of people will put it on their finger, and they'll do what's called a hot rail, which is snorting it up their nostril, immediately introducing it to their body. Methamphetamine is a stimulant, and heroin, fentanyl are downers. So a lot of times they go together. They do. Your body reacts to those. So if you're really high up on methamphetamine, a lot of people will use heroin then to level yourself off. You start using these substances like methamphetamine. Methamphetamine has the ability to keep you awake for hours on end, sometimes days. If you see your children or any adults that could possibly be using that medications, look for other things such as colored pencils. Colored pencils, drawing books, stuff like that, it keeps them occupied for long times. Bright colors is intense while under the influence of methamphetamine. So people like those bright colors. Heroin, fentanyl, on the other hand, it's a downer. When you use that, you become very euphoric, submissive. You sit there, your breathing changes. It affects your pulmonary system, so your lungs and stuff start to retain water. And it makes it very, very hard to breathe. So people do what's called they fade out. They just kind of will stand there. You might see people just slumped over in a standing position, or if they're sitting on a couch, they might be leaned back. Their breathing slows way down. Typical breaths per minute for an adult is about 16. Usually in a person that's under the influence of heroin might be down to 2 or 3 per minute. You might see it, they're almost gasping for air. Those are the substances that we mostly see. If you see fentanyl or heroin, that comes in different colorations too. It could be brown, it could be gray, it could be white, depending on those cutting agents. So when I say a cutting agent, what it is that if you were to receive an ounce, so let's say a small baggie or a quarter size of pure heroin, if you introduce a cutting agent to that, or what we call on the street is step on it, we step on it with different products. You put a quarter size worth of cutting agents into that, then how much do you have? You have 2 quarters worth, right? So you're selling more amounts, you're getting more money. They're still gonna get a reaction because they want the substance, but the dealer's then getting more money. So these items have all been stepped on. And a lot of times this heroin is being stepped on with fentanyl, it's being stepped on other products. And it's just very, very, very dangerous. So law enforcement has been supplied with Narcan. We respond to, unfortunately, a lot of overdoses. But you'll see it come into Wood County in waves. I believe that Wood County, heroin and fentanyl is being used here every day. You'll notice when bad batches come into the area because you might have 4, 5, 6 overdoses probably in a 2 or 3 day stretch. And it overdoses whether it's, could be successful or unsuccessful, whether that person survives or not, depending on how law enforcement gets there or people are being properly trained that they might be with to help save somebody's life. So going back, MDMA is active in the county. MDMA is a usually pressed into a pill form. It's actually, it's pretty uncommon in this area, but you might come across it once in a while. It's basically, they look like little vitamins. If you see them and they're not in a prescription bottle, they're unlabeled, it's probably raising a red flag. So those are probably the top five substances that are prevalent in Wood County. Does anybody have any questions on those? What they look like, what they do?
How dangerous are all those things with ADHD medicine, depression medicine, like a mixture? Like if kids are on that regularly and then they start mixing that, like
Yeah.
what's the, I meant extreme danger or?
Yeah, I would say so. It depends on how often they're being taken and in what amounts. Typically, the trends that we see in those is that kids get introduced to cheap alcohol in parents' or grandparents' prescription medications first. From that, they become addicted to whatever the medication may be, and then they move into harder substances. So a lot of times, if they can find medications, they'll use them off the bat, then they move into harder substances, and then the medications kind of go out the door. But it could be life and death. If you start mixing up those things, it absolutely could be horrible. Yes?
In fentanyl in this area, is most of that cut and introduced elsewhere and simply sold here, or is raw fentanyl coming into Wood County?
No, most of it's cut. Most of it's cut when it comes here.
So it's,
Yes.
Wood County is more an endpoint.
It is. It's a transient location, so it's coming from larger cities: La Crosse, Green Bay, Minneapolis, Chicago, Appleton. If you look at the central Wisconsin, you can kind of spider web out from there. So as it broadens out, you're going to hit these larger locations where that product's coming in more of a pure form, and then as it's coming into the Wisconsin Rapids or Wood County location, it's being cut by somebody, and then it's being cut again, and then it's being cut again. The thing about fentanyl, though, is that it takes a very, very insignificant amount to potentially cause a drug overdose to a body.
I mean, is the popular perception of fentanyl being that, you know, any amount of it that you come in contact with can cause harm?
We treat it as so. So if we believe that there's fentanyl in a vehicle or on somebody's person, we try to use personal protective equipment,
Like a
PPE.
hazmat.
Yes, as much as we can.
Okay.
Okay, it is very dangerous. A lot of times if we're working with it and we open up a baggie, you know, it can come up in your face, you know. And as people have seen on the news, there's people that have been investigating these types of incidences that have overdosed without meaning to.
Canines too.
Canines too, yep. We do proper canine care. I went through medical class trying to get to understand how to make sure that my dog is safe when conducting these types of searches.
I will share that in our Narcan trainings that we give, there was a position paper release saying that it's more difficult to overdose on fentanyl just by touching it. It has to be genuinely ingested into the body to overdose on it. So yes, you should be using precautions and proper equipment when responding to something when you don't know what substances are around. But typically it generally has to be like breathed in, injected into the body somehow, so snorted, injected, something like that in order to overdose on something. Even fentanyl being up to 50 times more potent than heroin, there's analogs of fentanyl as well, such as carfentanil, which is used on large animals such as elephants, that is like 10,000 times more potent than morphine. So these are very potent substances we're dealing with here. So yeah, you may feel some effects if you come into contact with it. It's unlikely you'll overdose, but again, especially with your canine, if they're sniffing that in, your canine can overdose, so Narcan can also be used on the animal as well.
Yep. We don't do body sniffs with my dog, and I won't send my dog inside of a vehicle. One is for his personal protection and his safety. I don't want him to step on open needles. I don't want him to get into any substances because he sources to odor. So if he smells heroin or fentanyl or a derivative, he's gonna try to get as close to that as possible. Well, if it's sitting in a cup holder, he's gonna stick his nose right in there, and I don't want that. That product is already airborne inside that vehicle through the venting system and everything else, so it's coming out of that vehicle when he sources it.
He just goes on point and sits down outside.
He will. He'll do what's called a passive indication, which is he'll try to get as close as he can, and then he'll sit and he'll stare at it. Yes?
I want to mention this. I know probably a couple of years ago, just so you're aware that some people dump needles all over the place too. So there was the one, I got a picture that Chief Woods gave me because I was doing some drug presentation. It was about a 6 or 8 foot table mounted with needles that all came out of one car about 10 miles from here. And so the users, one guy will be the needle guy for a while and they'll dump them. So you gotta don't handle those needles.
They don't keep, users typically won't keep needles in like a needle reservoir either. You know, you go to a doctor's office, it's a red container, it's got a plastic clear lid, you flip the needle in there, flip it over, stays out of the way, right? They use empty laundry containers, they use any sort of plastic substance. Unfortunately, we find a lot of them on the roadside, you know, they'll use and then they'll toss it out the window. And that's pretty gross. So, yeah, you know, I appreciate people, if they are going to use, that they try to dispose of them properly, but we do often come across hundreds of needles in vehicles when we're searching them.
Yeah, we're doing a couple initiatives through our coalition work, through our community coalition work. Because there are improperly discarded needles all over the place, we've heard of plenty of officers who have had needle sticks. And we want to make sure we're keeping not only our officers safe, our community safe, our kids safe, but we just want to make sure we're not also spreading communicable diseases, because there are diseases that can live for days or weeks at a time on these used syringes. So there are a lot of people who feel like, you know, we shouldn't be taking action around that, and my response is, if we're going to keep the community safe, and like things like a syringe service program where someone can come in and discard their used needles, they can get clean using supplies because they're going to use anyways, so keep that in mind. If they're going to bring something in and we give them clean using supplies for like a syringe service program, it's actually helping our community. It's helping not have hundreds of needles being thrown all over the streets, in the cars, in our parks where our kids are playing, and can get potentially poked with a needle.
And
So-
it stops
Right.
the spread of diseases because multiple users might use from the same syringe.
Yes, exactly. So if we're giving people clean using supplies, that's actually a really good thing. We're giving them an opportunity to discard of their used equipment and get new equipment, so they're potentially not going to be contracting hepatitis C, HIV, things of that nature. So just knowing the nature of addiction and substance use disorders, they're going to use no matter what, so keep that in mind. If they're going to use, hopefully they have clean substances to use and a place to discard of those used equipment.
Yep. So just other things to look out for, used syringes is good. Alcohol swabs, a lot of times they'll clean their area on their body before they inject themselves. Blue tourniquets, rubber tourniquets that you would see like in a hospital if you're going for blood work or anything like that. Things like that are provided. So if you see a lot of those things laying around and they're not kept properly, it's probably some ongoing drug use.
And we're working on getting some sharps disposals placed in parks as well. We're seeing a lot of sharps discarded in parks, so we want to get like some disposal locations like around town a little bit.
We're putting one in Marshfield, but we're also going to put one in Robinson and Lion Park. But if there's a place that you think is better, we could, there's a place around Port Edwards that would work to have it's an outdoor metal kiosk that was created by Custom Fabrications, where they can open and drop sharps in there, and then the nurses at the public health department will dispose of them. So if that's something you know of, sign up for the Impact mailing list and let me get your information. And let me know your thoughts on that. If there is a place, we do meet about these sorts of things, and if there is a location that those would serve better than Lion or Robinson Park, we'd love to know. And also, please, anyone here, presenters, everyone, if you can sign the sign-in sheet on that table out there before you leave, I'd really appreciate it.
We just want to give a big thank you again to Port Edward School District for hosting us tonight. Also for Nakusa Police Department, Port Edward Police Department for being here. We really appreciate the feedback you've done with the presentation. Also the WHEEL program. We had Three Bridges Recovery here, so that was wonderful. Three Bridges Recovery, I can't say enough great things about that organization. People with lived experience with substance use, helping others get into treatment, get into recovery, supporting people, training them. So they're a great organization that our community is so fortunate to have. So thank you all very much.
Okay.